Hi, this is Jonah Dempsey, your host of the Human Design Deconditioning Guide. I'm in sunny Santa Fe, and today we're going to be talking about manifestors. The manifestor is one of 4 types in human design. 5 if you include the manifesting generator. The types are the manifestor, the generator, the projector, the reflector, and then if you include the manifesting generator as its own type, which some people do, like Chetan Parkin, although most human design practitioners consider the manifesting generator to be a generator, a subtype of generator. So the manifestor is about 8% of the population. Manifestors used to be at the top of the hierarchy, so to speak. It's thought that the Neanderthal were reflectors, and then at a certain point the manifesting generator channel formed, which is the 3420, and the manifesting generator is kind of like the warrior Buddha who combines yin and yang, and then this divided or split into the yang type, the manifestor, and the yin type, the generator. So the manifestor is the yang type. And it says something about how, 34% of the population are generators and 8% are manifestors. That we need a lot more yin than we do yang. That a little bit goes a long way. And so what is the difference between yin and yang? Well, yin is receptive, it's passive. Yang is the active principle, and it's not receptive, it's impermeable. So the manifestor has a repelling aura that pushes people away, and that's the yang aura, compared to the generator, which has a magnetic, inviting, bear hug kind of aura, right? So the manifestor with their repelling aura, it can be difficult for manifestors to feel close to somebody just by sitting in their presence. The manifestor might need something like sexual intimacy, or they might think they need that anyway, or intense eye contact, or something else that allows them to feel that connection. Whereas for a generator or for a projector, if the projector is sitting in the aura of that generator, it's just enough to sit with them, because the generators and the projectors are going to be getting most of their energy transfer from other people. For the generator, it'll be the people in their surroundings, because the generator has an all-inclusive aura, and for the projector, it'll be for the person that they're connected to at that moment in time, because the projector can only connect to one person at a time. So if there's 4 people in the room and the projector's only connected to one of them, then the others won't be conditioning that projector that much. So, but in any case, the manifestor doesn't get that same level of conditioning or energy transfer. The manifestor isn't really getting the same give and take, push and pull of energy from other people just by sitting in their presence. That's why the manifestor will often want to make intense eye contact or have some sort of intense experience that allows them to actually feel that more, because they're not just feeling it normally. And the manifestor repelling aura is good at getting people to get out of your way. The generator, they can just sit there and people will come up to them. People don't want to approach manifestors. They're intimidated, they're pushed away. I was at a party and I knew everyone's human design there, maybe about 12 people, and a manifestor came over. And he sat down at the party, and within 10 minutes, everyone had left that area. Left him all alone there. His aura pushed them all away. Similarly, a generator can go to a party, can sit there, and then they won't be left alone. People will just keep coming up to them. So the manifestor has this repelling aura, so it's good at getting people to get out of your way. So what is that good for? Well, it's the fact that the manifestor can initiate. They can start a conversation with someone and make it go really well. They can come up with an idea. So I just want to give some examples of this. So, because there's basically 3 levels of it. There's the manifestor who can, initiate, but it's hard for them to go with the flow. Then there's the manifesting generator who tries to initiate as the not self because they feel like a manifestor crammed into a generator body. And that's really bad because they try to initiate and it's like fingernails on a chalkboard and they're always interrupting people and it's terrible. And so what they need to do is chill out and be like a generator where they just wait to respond. But then after they've entered into that flow, that responsive flow, at that point, then they can initiate. Then there's the generator, not the manifesting generator, but the generator. The generator can never initiate, ever. The generator can only be in the flow. And I keep referring to flow because there are 3 flow channels, and they're all sacral channels, and they're the 3 channels that go from the sacral to the G center. So flow is a generator thing. Manifestors don't flow like that. If they are flowing, they're in somebody else's flow. Or their sacral is activated, so they're temporarily experiencing a flow. But what I mean by that, so let's give some examples. I like to keep it concrete and practical. Okay, so I am a generator, and I'm at a party, and I want to talk to somebody. I can't go up to them and say, "Hi, I want to talk to you," or else it'll be totally interrupting what they're doing. It'll set everything off. It'll be like fingernails on a chalkboard. It's really bad to do that, right? So instead, I wait for them to make the first move, or at least to notice me, or us to have some sort of moment. That moment that happens. And then I can say something when there's the right moment. So I have to wait for that moment. Now, say they're a generator too. Neither of us is going to be wanting to start talking to the other. But one of us is going to have to at some point. And it might be we keep seeing each other all night throughout the party, and we both keep noticing each other, and we keep nodding. We still don't initiate. We still don't say anything. And then finally, something happens where we accidentally walk into each other, or where we both reach for the drink at the same time, or where, something happens, or somebody introduces us, or somebody's talking to one of us and then mentions the other person and motions for them to come over. Basically, something has to happen externally to get us to talk to each other. If we're both generators, something has to happen. Same for the projector. In fact, I would put the projector on even a lower level of the hierarchy. Cohn Hillowert, the human design practitioner, told a story of a week-long human design retreat he did, where they did a really interesting experiment. They said, okay, there's a hierarchy. Manifestors can initiate with anyone. They can walk up and talk to anybody. But nobody can initiate with them. If you see a manifestor, you don't say a word to them until they start. They always take the lead. Next, we have the generators and the manifesting generators. They follow the same rules. They can initiate with each other. They can talk to each other. They can initiate with projectors and say, "Hey, I was wondering if you wanted to come out for lunch with me or something," They can do that with projectors, and they can initiate with reflectors. But they can't initiate with manifestors. Then the next level down, you have the projectors. The projectors can initiate with each other. They can talk to each other, and they can talk to the reflectors. But they can't speak unless spoken to with a generator or a manifestor, or a manifesting generator. Finally, you have the reflectors, and they can't initiate with anybody except other reflectors. And they can only be, initiated by somebody else. So this is really the experiment, right? What happens when you live your life this way? Well, Cohn Hillowert had a really interesting observation. He said it really brought out the not-self theme for the projectors. Because the not-self theme for the projector is bitterness. Bitterness over not being recognized. Bitterness over not being included. I'm sure the manifestors loved it. The manifestors just want peace, and their not-self theme is anger, and they tend to get angry when they're interfered with. So I'm sure those manifestors out there just thought it was great. What, you mean people aren't going to start getting in my way and interfering with me and telling me what to do and talking to me unless I talk to them? It's amazing. But the projectors were very bitter. And they were bitter because the first day nobody talked to them. And they basically were just kind of leaning, on a wall, lined up. It's like it's lunchtime. They've had the morning, they've had the whole, morning session, and it's lunchtime, and the projectors are all kind of like leaned against the wall, almost like prostitutes, right? Going like, pick me, choose me, trying to kind of, they've gussied themselves up to be as appealing as possible to be invited to lunch, and nobody invites them. And the generators are all laughing together, and they're all, oh, that was so great how they said that, and they all just walk out the door right by the projectors, and the projectors are just sitting there. So then they go to lunch with each other, okay, I guess we'll just go to lunch together then. But of course they're missing that sacral energy. The non-sacral types can get really addicted to the sacral, let me tell you. So, which is not to say that the generators can't also get hooked on what particularly projectors give them, which is so much attention. But in any case, it's an interesting experiment, right? Where the projectors, the first day, they're not invited anywhere, and they're all bitter. And that bitterness is kind of making them not be invited also. Because when they're putting out that bitterness, who wants to invite someone who's bitter? So, when a projector just oozes success, that's when they get invited. It's a virtuous circle. So the projectors but then the second day, the third day, eventually they start to get invited, and then everything is right. Because at that point, the projector is getting invited because the person really wants to find out more about them. Because the person inviting them is really curious about them. The person inviting them really wants them to be there. They're not being invited out of obligation. They're not inviting themselves. Oh, I knew someone was a projector the other day because I was going on a trip to the sound healing thing north of Santa Fe. We already had all the plans and we're all ready to go. And there's 4 of us total. And it's a small car. There's not enough room for a 5th person. And she just invites herself. She just shows up and she said, hey, I heard you guys were going on this. I really want to come along. And we're like, well, I don't know if there's enough room. She's like, well, you guys can just take 2 cars, right? I mean, I don't have a car, but you can take 2 cars. You have 2 cars. Like, super pushy, right? And we're like, no, we don't want to take 2 cars because it's an hour drive each way and this and that. And then she's like, yeah, well, I just figured I'd come along. We'll find a way to make it work. It's like, that is the projector in a nutshell, the not self of the projector, right? And then, of course, where 5 of us are in a car, she's the only projector in the car, and projectors can only talk to one person at a time. So projectors, when they're in groups, when they're around more than one person, they pretty much should either talk to the whole group in a really impersonal way, or they should just not talk and just observe, and then wait to be asked questions and stuff, right? But instead, what they end up doing is they end up locking into a single person, because that's what the projector likes to do, right? They lock in one-on-one, and then suddenly we have an hour-long trip, and this projector is talking to only one of us, and the other 3 people in the car can't have a conversation. And we just spend an hour sitting in silence, unable to talk. We've been looking forward to talking. We wanted to talk. If the projector wasn't there, we'd all be talking. But instead, this projector spends 1 hour having very deep, intense personal conversation, some of it even in hush-hush tone, very personal, so the rest of us weren't even supposed to hear it, even though we're all in the same car together, completely dominating that conversation, periodically turning to ask a question to one of the other people. Basically totally bossy, in control, pushy. So that's the not self of the projector right there. But anyway, so you'll see that when these projectors on this group actually did get invited, it was perfect because everything was going according to its natural flow. So that's what human design is about, is this flow. So I'm just going to give some examples again. So this kind of natural way of being. So the manifestor's natural way of being is to initiate. So what is initiating? Well, that's actually breaking flow. So it's funny because it's the natural, quote-unquote, flow of life, but flow is a sacral concept, and so the manifestor is actually really good at smoothly breaking the flow. Like, we're all sitting at the party, and it reaches a lull. my manifestor friend Molly did this. We were at a party, and it gets to that boring place. You know what the boring place is. The flow reaches its end. It starts to peter out. So she turns on music, and she starts to like have everyone dance around, and then she starts flicking the light on and off, the light switch, and making a strobe effect for like 3 minutes. I thought she was going to do it for like 4 seconds. She did it for like 3 minutes and got everybody so pumped, and we were all laughing and giggling. And so manifestors can think of something to do, especially if they're splenic, and they can initiate something, right, where they get this totally new thing to happen. I'm on the Acequia Trail by St. Francis. I'm just trying to look for where I should go. It's the Acequia Trail because that's the Acequia there, the ditch. But I guess I'll walk this way. So manifestors can break that flow. Okay, generators can never do that. So what that means is, so I'm a generator, I'm at the party, there's another generator, like this whole scenario I was talking about. We're not really talking to each other. Finally, we start talking to each other. All we can really do is naturally, organically let that conversation flow where it's going to go. And you could say something like, hey, I was about to go outside. You want to come with me? Uh-huh. Yeah, do you want to go outside? Uh-huh. Yeah, that sounds good, And like, we can do these kind of things, but we can't. It's a little bit like there is a point where the generator can ask the other, especially the asking. Like if you're both generators, the generator can say, hey, do you want to leave the party? Do you want to just go for a walk? And then the other generator can go, uh-huh. Do you want to go for a walk? Uh-huh. And that's something that's really cool. It's actually like micro consent. It's like you're checking with each other with yes or no questions. That's something generators can do, which is not necessarily the same as a flow breaking sort of, initiation. The flow breaking is when the generator makes a move. So if it's a sexual thing, it could be the generator going in for the kiss. That's initiating. You're going to kiss spontaneously and naturally and organically when it happens. But when you're in your mind and going, oh, I should kiss that person right now, that's making an initiation, right? Or if it's in a business thing and you're trying to do a business, negotiation, if you're a generator, you're just letting it flow naturally, the back and forth, and they're saying, well, is this acceptable to you? And you go, no, those terms aren't good. And then you're coming up and you're like, well, how about this? Is this good for you? And they're like, they're not really sure. You're checking with each other's sacrals, right? That's the natural flow, but it's initiating if you go, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to accept these terms or I'm going to walk, right? That's initiating. Or for the generator also, I remember an example, 2 generators. I was talking to them. They were a couple, and the one generator got really mad at the other one, but then she didn't say anything about it. It didn't respond in the moment, and she waited till the next day. Then in the morning, she brought it up. Totally initiated, out of the blue. They're having breakfast, and she goes, so I wanted to talk to you about this. There's this issue that you need to be aware of that, that is initiating. Generators are never supposed to do that. They're supposed to basically let things come up organically and naturally or not at all. So if there's some big issue you want to talk about, that issue will come up when the time is right. It'll absolutely come up at a certain point, especially if you're practicing that generator consent. The other person will say, hey, so you seemed a little bit mad the other day. Were you mad at me? And then the generator can go, uh-huh. And then you can say, well, what were you mad about? And you say, well, actually, and then you tell them, and then that's the right time. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that the generator is not supposed to initiate into something new. Not supposed to bring something new into it, right? They're supposed to basically let they're supposed to kind of just let it flow naturally. How's it going? Yeah. So they're not supposed to start, I just talked to that guy walking by, but that wasn't really initiating because he was looking at me, I turned, I looked at him, I didn't plan it in my head. It wasn't premeditated. That's really what it comes down to, is generators not supposed to have anything in their head planned. The plan isn't what it's all about. How's it going? I don't have any change, sorry. Yeah, so the generator, though, is going to basically So they're going to naturally be in a flow. They're going to naturally respond to things. Now, they can't really initiate. Now, the manifesting generator can initiate. The manifesting generator, you know, here's the problem, is that they always start by initiating. The manifesting generator is always trying to initiate. They're trying to jump in there and start it, and that's really bad. Not supposed to do that. But they can initiate once they've entered into the flow. So it's like they enter into a conversation organically, then they say, hey, you know what? Let's get out of here. And it's totally fine to do that. And it feels natural. Even though it kind of breaks the flow, it feels like a natural break. Okay, so the manifestor, though, they can initiate all the time. And in fact, it can be really hard for me as a generator, because I get into such a flow. And unless the manifestor is going to come along with me in my sacral flow, which they sometimes do actually, but unless they're going to do that, they're going to continually introduce new stuff that makes me have to constantly recalibrate and readjust, right? So I'm just going along, and then they're like, you know what we should do is this. And suddenly it's something totally different, right? And the big issue for manifestors, they often don't inform. So the manifestor needs to inform. More than anything else, the manifestor needs to inform. Like, I had a special event planned. We practiced for it, all this stuff. And we had a manifestor who's going to do a fire show outside. And the event was going to start at midnight. And what we were going to do was we were going to find a treasure map. And the treasure map was pinned on this young woman's back. And she was going to say, hey, we need to find this treasure map. Somewhere here in this living room, in this room, there's a treasure map. And we need to all find it. And whoever finds it will be our leader to take us to find the treasure. The treasure's outside in the yard. Okay, so she's just about to get ready to do it. We've had it all practiced and planned. And remember, the map is on her back, so that was going to be the joke. People were going to look for it. We may have had some clues, but basically they were going to look for it, and then she was going to turn around, and they were going to see it and go, well, there's the treasure map, you know. So this manifestor fire dancer, like 5 minutes to midnight, he goes, all right, everybody, head outside. Come on out. Get outside, get outside. Come on, move, move, move. Go, go. He starts pushing people out. And he gets like 30 people to go outside. And they all put on their shoes, and they're all standing outside, and it's super cold. And then he goes over to me and goes, all right, you're on. And I said, oh no, our thing is inside. I thought you were doing something else. I thought you were gonna just delay it. And he goes, no, 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 I'm doing my fire dancing in 10 minutes. But you do your little treasure hunt thing. And I said, well, we can't do it here because it's dark out, and there's no way to do it, and the treasure hunt takes place in the living room. And then he goes, no, no, you guys can still do it here. All right, where's the girl with the treasure map? And he goes and finds her, and he grabs her, and he goes, all right, everybody, listen up. We got a treasure hunt. And he like takes over, right? She's supposed to be announcing it, supposed to be in the living room. And then we got a treasure hunt. You're all supposed to find the treasure. Well, they go to all the different corners of the yard. They're all over the place. It's dark out. It's terrible. It's a total disaster. Nobody finds it. Eventually, he just starts doing his fire dancing. Like in the middle of it, and it's just like a complete failure. So that's what I mean by not informing. If you would have said, hey, I'm going to tell people to go outside, and I asked him later, I said, why did you do that? And he said, oh, you know, I figured they had to put their shoes on, and after your little treasure hunt thing, like people would have to put on their shoes, and that'd be really annoying. I figured they should just get their shoes on first. And I said, well, we couldn't do our treasure hunt because it was in the living room. And he goes, oh, that's too bad. You know, totally oblivious, right? So this is the classic manifestor who doesn't inform, who initiates their own action with their own agenda without telling anybody what it is, and who screws up everybody else's plans. And this happens again and again and again, and they don't realize it. They're so oblivious. Manifestors do not realize the impact they have on other people. I was telling a manifestor she needs to inform, and she's like, well, what is informing? And I'm like, well, if you're gonna do construction on your house, as soon as you know the date of the construction, you tell all your neighbors. Well, why would I do that? Well, because the construction is going to be loud and noisy. Yeah, but it's during legal, normal business hours. They have no legal right to complain. Well, yeah, it's not about the legal right. It's about, you know, informing them so that they're not annoyed. Well, I wouldn't tell them. It's none of their business. you know, this is the manifestor, right? The manifestor basically wants to keep things secret, because there's this sort of, if I inform people, if I tell them before I initiate, they'll get in my way and they'll prevent me from doing it. You know, that's probably what the fire dancer thought. If I tell them I'm going to make everybody leave, then they'll tell me I can't do that, and then I'll have to wait for them to all get their shoes on and this and this and this. I'm just going to do it without telling them. Or if I tell my neighbors I'm going to do the construction, that will give them the ability to research laws that maybe they will get me in trouble and prevent me from doing it or something, you know? So it's like the manifestor is always trying to blindside people. They're always trying to catch them off guard. Stop doing that. If you're a manifestor, stop doing that. This is what leads to your anger. The not self of the manifestor is anger, and it's anger of people always getting in their way. And so the manifestor thinks, hey, if I just, you know, don't tell them, then I'll catch them off guard, and then I won't be angry because they won't be able to get in my way, because they'll be so caught off guard. That doesn't work. That's why you're angry. That's why people get in your way. They get in your way because you're catching them off guard all the time. So you have to inform. That's what it's about. If you're a manifestor, you have to inform people. You can initiate, but you have to inform. So there's much more to the manifestor than that, but I think if there's one takeaway from this talk, it is the manifestor strategy. Inform before you act. You have a tremendous gift. You're the only type that can act without getting resistance. You can initiate. You can walk up to someone and just start a conversation with them. You can walk up to the barista and say, hey, I'd like a cup of coffee. Or, hey, what's that you're doing there? Oh, that's a cool espresso machine. Where'd you get that? You know, you can do that kind of stuff. That's really annoying when a generator does that, or when a projector does that. People feel intruded upon. As a generator, I have to walk up to the barista, stand there silently till the barista notices me, and then once we notice each other, either they'll say, can I get you something? Or I'll say, hey, how's it going? But only once we've had that kind of calibration. I've seen manifestors walk up and go, oh, that's funny, I heard this song 2 years ago and it was blah, blah, blah. You know, like, it's just like some random thing, and then suddenly they got a date with the barista or something, you know? I mean, manifestors are constantly, but I will say manifestors do get hooked on sex, drugs, money. Those are three big ones that manifestors, I mean, everyone does, and those are all very not self kind of things. I mean, obviously not sexuality as a form of love, but like sex just for the sake of sex. And then money, and then, you know, it's kind of like power trip stuff. I know a manifestor, we went on a trip together, a camping trip to an event, and I think he had like 4 or 5 romantic partners, you know, by the end of it, in 1 week. Because as a manifestor, he would just walk up to people and he would just kind of say, hey, I really like your necklace. And then just start talking to them, and then pretty soon he would initiate every step of the way, right? He would initiate, hey, let's go back to my tent, or, you know, he would initiate every single, every single step. And it wasn't a natural organic flow. And that's the thing, manifestors can do that. They can initiate, they can start things. I know another manifestor, you know, I mean, I've seen this again and again. So I don't want to talk out of school here, but basically I've seen manifestors who get really hooked on drugs, really hooked on sleeping with people, really hooked on money, and they get hooked on these things and hooked on power. And this is the not self of the undefined sacral. I mean, it happens to generators too. It happens to everyone. I'm not trying to single out manifestors, but there's something about the relationship with the undefined sacral and not knowing when enough is enough. Having 1 romantic partner isn't enough. You need 3. Having this amount of money isn't enough. You need more. You know, it's this kind of, it's never enough. And that's a real issue for the non-sacral beings. So, yeah, I guess if there's one key takeaway here, it's the strategy. You know, what is informing about? Informing means you're going to initiate, you're going to do something, you're going to get everyone's attention, you're going to tell them to go somewhere, you're going to change the direction of the event, you're going to change the flow. That's what manifestors do. They're flow breakers. They break the flow. There's a natural flow of the night, and the flow is going like that, and the manifestor comes in and they go, nope, we're going over here now, and they totally change it, and it can be magical. It can be incredible. You're at a party and that party hits the lull and suddenly the manifestor has turned it into a totally different kind of party. That's amazing. Or you're in your business, everyone has a rut, and then suddenly the manifestor comes in and they go, okay, we're pivoting, we're changing our direction, we're gonna actually do this now. I've talked to this person, and this person, we have a new business partner with them, we're in a strategic partnership here, and suddenly they've just completely changed the entire direction of the company. This is what manifestors do, I've seen it. You know, but again, the not self of that is that they keep it all a secret. I had my manifestor boss tell me, you know, sometimes I just don't tell anyone what my plans are, because if I tell them, they're going to draw their own conclusions, and those conclusions might be wrong and have nothing to do with what I'm planning. And so I just don't tell them, and they can just figure it out when I do it. And I'm like, well, you need to tell people because it catches them off guard. You know, and I've heard manifestors say, oh yeah, well no, I informed those people. I informed them that they had 2 weeks notice. No, you have to inform them 6 months in advance that there's a chance they're going to be fired. You don't just inform them that they're fired. That's not informing, that's, you know, initiating again. So that's what it really comes down to. If you're a manifestor, you got to inform. You have this amazing gift, you can initiate. You have this amazing ability to change the, you know, situation drastically. You can radically change things, but at the same time, that comes with the responsibility to inform people. Orson Welles was a manifestor, and when he read H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, he didn't sufficiently inform people that that it was fiction, and so they jumped out of windows and stuff. All right. This has been Jonah Dempsey, your host of the Human Design Deconditioning Guide. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed these videos, please subscribe.